Okay. Hey, Arlene.
Hey Zach, how you doing?
Running behind. How are you doing today?
I'm running. I'm running.
I should have been in the circus because I can juggle these days. I gotta tell you.
Well, good for you. Oh my goodness gracious, this is crazy.
I just printed off a copy of this Making Affordable Home Ownership Work in Albany, New York document.
Hmm.
I understand that, well, John O'Grady had reached out to me and with Tom McFeeters and oh, what's the lady that's speaking tonight with Habitat?
Being Beauty,
It's
Christine
Christine.
Beauty.
Okay. She's gonna speak about it. And I guess Kana could sign on too with some discussion if
That would be good.
so we'll have her present and then I can, questions, discussion. I think, if somebody makes a motion, I have no problem with that.
Okay, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, because yeah, affordable housing is really an issue. Like what is affordable? Um, it's I mean, renting is out of control as far as pricing.
I know, but you have to have options for everybody, but affordable, what is that? Because when I look at what HUD sets as the standards, it's pretty expensive.
So it's based on percentage of what? Income?
Well, it depends. It should be based on 30, it should be 30% of the income, you know, but the standards are not quite aligned with that, not quite aligned with what the incomes of people are. It's just not. So, you know, I don't know. There's a need for subsidy. I don't know I don't know what the answer is, but I know it's just something that we need to be working towards. Is Jean here?
Yeah, Gina, is your microphone on?
It looked like you wanted to say something.
Hi, Gene, we see you. There he is. You just got to unmute yourself, Gene. You got to push the little microphone
Can't
button.
hear you, Jean.
Gene, there's probably a little microphone that says mute under it. It's a little, looks like a microphone. You just got to click on that, or push the button. Hey, Kathy. Yeah. Let me change my settings. Actually, Gene, oh, no, Gene, you're muted now. Whatever you just did, do it again. There you go. Can we hear you, Gene?
Could be something with the speaker. Check your speaker, Jean, on your computer.
You may have to click a different setting, Gene. There might be a little, if you see the mute button, Gene, there's a little, almost like what's it, like a little chevron kind of shape?
Mm-hmm.
You got to click on that little chevron and make sure your microphone is selected right. Or Gene, you could always call on the phone. There's a phone number to call in too.
He was just talking.
What's the phone number? There's a phone number for this.
Kathy's like in and out.
Gene, do you want to try to call on the phone? You want to call in, Gene? You can call in. Oh. Oh. Oh, well, technology. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Zach.
Hi, Colin. Hi, Kathy. Hi, BJ.
Hey, Zach.
Hi, how are you, BJ? Good to see you.
I could not be better looking at you. And my friend Gene, if he can ever figure this out.
Now, BJ, you're speaking next month, I think, right?
Next month, yes.
That's right. Okay.
We've been collaborating with Scott, so we'll see how that goes tonight.
Okay. Yeah, Scott and Benita Law Dio. She's going to be on too.
Hey, Zach.
Hi, how are you, BJ? Good to see you.
There's
There's an echo. I hear an echo.
My friend Gene,
Oh, there we go. Colin, anything exciting down in your area?
I couldn't tell you if it has been exciting. I haven't been out of the house. It's been too cold.
It has been a little chilly. Good.
It's just one benefit of the COVID meeting like this. You get a lot of people that participate. It's easy.
Yes, and we don't have the overhead speaker saying the library's closing in 15, 30 minutes. In 2 minutes, get out.
Oh, boy.
But I do
Some
miss
traditions.
I always found that funny at the CANA meetings, the auditorium. We'll get out, we promise. You got Louise. Hi, Louise.
Hello, Zachary. Thanks so much for getting those tests around to some of our neighbors. They're very grateful.
Great. I think there's about 3 more requests to get out tomorrow, but yeah, a lot of people requested them this weekend. So it was nice to get out of the house.
That is amazing. I was going to say, how many have you done? That's just, we had to do masks, like 500 masks, but at the time we were kind of working at home. We weren't back in the offices yet. And it's still, it was unbelievably time consuming because you just end up spending so much time driving all over.
Well, you know what I did? So I'd get requests from email, Facebook, and phone. I did an Excel spreadsheet, and then I sorted it by neighborhood, and then sorted it by street. So everything was linear. I basically did a linear path throughout the city.
Oh, so you didn't kind of go backwards on your tracks and that kind of thing. Do you still have some left, Zach, or have you done with that project?
I think that we have almost a box, a large box left. So yeah, if you get more requests, let me know.
Yeah.
Definitely.
No, that's great. So they were donated to the city, right? But then the city turned around and
I'm not sure. They did come from the mayor's office. I coordinated with the mayor's office. I'm not sure like how they got them, but
yeah. Well, that was quite a project.
it was fun.
Good.
I work from home now, so getting out of the house is actually a luxury.
Yeah. If somebody comes to the door, you're excited, right? Yay, a human.
The FedEx guy today, I was like, FedEx guy, hi. Hi, Dan. Got Sal, John,
Hi.
Helen.
Hello,
Ed, good to
Gene,
see
hi,
you.
long time.
there's Gene.
Hi. Got John, Helen.
I'm gonna try to change the name.
Okay. Arlene, hi.
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
Hey, John.
Good evening.
We're gonna get started in a couple of minutes. If you want to mute yourselves, folks, I appreciate it. Thank you.
I didn't even say hello, so I'll mute after I say hello.
Oh, hey, Ray. Good to see you. How are you?
Long time no see.
I haven't seen either one of you two in a whole 24 hours.
There you go.
Yeah.
You got Danielle. Hi, you got Howie.
Hello, Zach.
Hi, Howie. We have got Katie with River Keeper. Hi, Katie.
Hey,
Got
Zach.
Maura. Hi, hi, thanks for coming. Got Maura McNulty. And,
Yeah, of course.
Hi, everybody.
Mr. Solon, how you doing?
So Zach, have you we can't rename ourselves? Have you disabled that?
yeah, does somebody rename themselves?
Well, no, because I would just like to take it out for the meeting. I just like to change the name on my meeting. too.
Oh, sure, Howie. Yeah, let me just do that real quick.
Well, no, if you don't, I was just wondering because it doesn't show up any longer as an option.
It's there we go. Okay, you can do it now.
All right, let's go to, let's see, stop video, rename. There it goes. Thank you.
Oh,
Okay.
you can rename yourself here like that? You can do
Yeah,
that?
you can
Yep.
use-
Oh, good. I'd
Yeah,
love
you
to
need
rename
it because
myself.
Zach had disabled that feature.
Oh, okay. Because I just, for some reason, I put my initials on and everybody thinks that, don't know it's me, you know. Can I change my name?
Sure you can.
How?
Just go
How'd
up
you
to
do it?
those three dots and choose rename.
3 dots.
The three dots in the right-hand corner by your square.
Where it says view? Oh,
By
by my square. Oh,
your
I
square.
see.
Yeah.
I see. Oh, over here, you mean. Oh, where it says, yeah. Oh, look at that.
Rename should be the bottom.
Rename,
Only for
there we
me.
go.
Yeah. There we go.
Okay, all right, let me change this.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and get everybody muted here and we get started. Let's see here.
No. I'm renamed.
Okay, everybody, it's 6:31. We're just going to call this meeting to order. Good evening. It's the March 2nd, 2022 meeting of the Council of Albany Neighborhood Associations. I'm Zach Simpson, the CANA chair. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We have a pretty busy night, so I just wanted to start out with a couple of things. As you may have seen on the agenda, Assemblymember Pat Fahey and John McDonald were to present tonight on the state budget. For those who may not have heard, Pat Fahey's son Brendan passed away of cancer on Monday morning. He was 25 years old. He had been battling a very aggressive form of cancer for 20 months. So on behalf of CANA, my heart goes out to Assembly Member Fahey. And I did talk to John McDonald as well, and they will be back later this year to present to CANA.
Can we present Ms. Fay with a card or a note? Signed
Absolutely.
by him. Okay.
Absolutely. Most definitely. So she's a good friend of mine, and my heart goes out to her family. It's a horrible time. So just wanted to say that. And I also wanted to give a big thank you to Luke Rumsey and Jordan Carly Evangelist at the University at Albany for the tour of the brand new state-of-the-art e-tech building last night. Several members of CANA and the community went, and we really appreciated the VIP tour of the facilities. It's quite impressive. Okay, with that, let's shift over to the Albany Police Department for their public safety update. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, Dan Webster here, Albany Police Department. So I'll just go over some quick stats with you guys so you see what's going on. I wish I had good news, but it's been a very busy year for us. Pretty much all our crime stats are up. Fortunately, we haven't had anybody die from shots fired, but we have had 25 confirmed shot fire calls this year, and we're only 2 months in, and it's winter. So that is concerning to me. But the other thing I wanted to point out is our theft from motor vehicles is up 125%. And the thing that's frustrating about that is because that's a crime that we can actually help ourselves by locking car doors and not leaving things in the car. So we've had 63 incidents reported so far this year of larcenies from vehicles. The other thing is up is robberies. We have had 29 confirmed robberies to date this year. It's up 171%. So hopefully this is just a statistical thing that we've had a rough couple months and things won't keep going in this direction, but that's what we got going on now. And we also still have, and I know I mentioned it before, catalytic converters are a big thing, getting stolen off of trucks and things like that. If anybody, I guess if anybody ever sees, I don't know where you would see that, U-Haul trucks, that kind of thing, people are just ripping them off the bottom. And that's another thing our detectives are really trying to work out. But that's what I got. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Anybody have any questions? Okay.
How are violent crimes up at all, or are they about the same?
Compared to this time last year, up 20% from the same 2 months of last year, from January, February of last year.
Any other questions? Unmute yourself. Just remember.
Hey, Zach, it's Joe. Oh, sorry about that. It's Joe Harrigan. How are you?
Hi, good. How are you?
Sorry, I know I haven't seen everybody in about 4 months. I apologize for that. I just wanted to say hi and just I know some people might recognize me and others might be like, who is this guy? We haven't seen him. For those that don't know me, I'm the sergeant of the NEU. My hours are 8 to 4. I had a pretty serious injury that I sustained at work, so I was unable to go to work for about since October, basically. But I'm back, and I will be attending the meetings. So if anybody's new and to this in the last couple of months and is unaware, my email is jharrigan@albanyny.gov. And Dan did just a fantastic job. But just to touch on that, I think you are going to see a increase in catalytic converter thefts, specifically from junk car dealers and U-Haul. Oddly enough, the reason why is because apparently platinum, one of the areas their platinum is mined is in the Ukraine and Russia. So obviously we're not getting any platinum from them. So you probably are going to see a very high increase in catalytic converter thefts because of the raw materials that are in those. So, but other than that, I just want to introduce myself and let you know that I am going to be back and attending the meetings on a regular basis again.
I see a couple of hands up. Got John, got Maura.
Who's
Go ahead.
next? Go ahead.
Hi, no, this is Helen. I was just wondering when the academy is going to be graduating the current recruits and how many might be actually joining the Albany Police Department.
Well, I believe.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. They should be getting out for field training at the end of April, start of May. And then it's about a 6 to 8 week field training, or even longer than that, 15-week field training program. And then, so by summer, we're expecting them to be on the street, 27 bodies right now.
Great, thank you.
Alan, did you have a question? Just gotta unmute yourself, Alan. You just gotta hit your unmute button on your iPad. Alan, we'll come right back.
I
to
got it.
you.
I got it. I got it. Thanks, Zach. Just a little bit of a heads up. When the weather was good a couple of weekends ago, so I live on Manning, and they're pretty obvious to me. The motorcyclers, as the last couple of years, have been zooming down Washington Avenue and going to whatever points unknown. So as the weather gets warmer, no doubt it's anything like the last couple of years. That's going to be running in full bloom or full roar, if you wish, probably before too long. Just to give the police a heads up on that. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, we are aware of that and go try some new strategies. So it's very difficult.
Yeah, I know. Appreciate.
Let's go to Maura and Melrose. With hand up.
Hi there. I just actually wanted to ask Officer Harrigan, can you drop your email in the chat? I just want to make sure I get it down right. And Officer Webster, could I ask you to do the same thing? I know.
Yes, of course. Yes, absolutely.
I just want to make sure I'm doing it right, you know?
Okay, any other questions or updates from the Albany Police Department? Nope. All right, thank you very much, officers. Appreciate it as always.
Thank you.
So thank you very much. So let's shift now to our first presentations for tonight. We are joined by Scott Townsend and Benita Laudeo with the Albany Riverfront Collaborative. Scott and Benita, are you on?
Yes.
I think I saw you both. Hi, how are you?
Yeah, we're both here.
Great, great. Whenever you're ready, thanks for joining us.
Well, thanks for having us. And I want to give a shout out to Arlene Way, who's part of the collaborative also, who lined us up. So thank you, Arlene. Benita, would you like to introduce yourself before I introduce myself and go into some slides?
My name's Benita Laudeo. I have lived in the Capital Region since 1989. I volunteer for a variety of community things. I've helped start community gardens. I'm a master gardener. I've started farmers markets in Arbor Hill and in the South End. I'm one of the founding members of a village which was in the South End. And I continue to do a lot of other things in the community with youth through the Underground Railroad History Project. And now I'm working with the Patroon Creek Greenway Feasibility Study. And I'm also a member of the Albany Riverfront Collaboration. So the things I do are things that I hope will help our community. And for years, I retired from the New York State Health Department. So I was sharing grant information throughout the community for any organization I thought would benefit the community.
Thanks. And Benita, I can't believe you fit us in. Thank you. So I'm Scott Townsend. I see a lot of familiar faces I haven't seen in a while. So hi, everybody. I have practiced in the Capital Region for a few decades now, and I was practicing in Albany for the vast majority of it. So what I'd like to do is, I know everyone's time is valuable. So what I will do is I will give I want to do a little presentation. I'm going to keep it fairly brief because this is a very large topic and this is the beginning of the topic going on. So I see BJ on, and I know he'll be presenting next week. So we'll see there's a lot of different ways of approaching this, which is great. So what I want to do is I'll be fairly brief. I'll show a presentation. I'm going to share the screen. I assume I can. And then what I will do is we want to leave some time at the end. Let me just set this up. Okay, everybody see that first slide?
Yeah, looks good.
Okay. So I think what's important about this and the way we're approaching this is a conversation, because this is one of those things that affects everybody. And so what you'll see as we go through and how we're approaching it is we're not approaching it from a prescriptive angle. We're approaching it from a truly a collaborative angle. This is such a large endeavor, and you'll see more details as we go, that we want this to be everybody can contribute, and that's why we're doing this. All right, why is it not going? Huh. There we go. I'm going to pause and let you read this yourselves. One thing to think about as you're contemplating this is start to ask yourself why in the capital region, the city of Troy and Schenectady, even Saratoga, over the last several decades have evolved with the times and remained fairly progressive and contemporary, whereas Albany has struggled with that. And what I'm really talking about is obviously there's wonderful areas in the city of Albany, but I'm also really talking about the downtown, the riverfront, and some of the communities that are down in that area, which we'll talk about in a second. Now, I realize you can't read this. This is tiny. But what's important about this slide is we came together, a bunch of us, about a year ago, and more people have been coming into the collaborative. The whole idea of transformation at an urban scale is it takes a lot of knowledge, it takes a lot of people, it takes a lot of energy. It takes all this expertise, anywhere down from people doing floodplains that are talking about issues of equity, they're talking about transportation engineering, all, economic. So you have to have all these thought leaders, political leaders, economic leaders. And so what we're doing is we're taking it from that approach. And we even have some political leaders, like I said, some of you probably know Pat Fahey, Assembly Member Fahey's been a part of our group and a big advocate for this. And I do want to say it's awfully tragic why she couldn't be there. So. Now, this is when Benita and I can start a conversation. Like I said, this is a big conversation. We have several core areas that we always go back to, and that what we're going to do is there's going to be conversations going on over time that we want to always go back to this. And these are the three things that we're doing. Since the last time 787 and the riverfront and everything was studied, a lot has changed. That was back in 2018 that was announced, and during the pandemic and Black Lives Matters and everything that has come to light in that time has really changed the conversation. The one thing I want to say about public health, we think about physical health so much, but it's really mental health and spiritual health. And it's at a community level as well as an individual level. And so that's something that we all got to focus on. I know these are really big things, but those are the things that need to be the drivers. And it was a pun intended. This right here is from 1960. We can all be romantic about the riverfront in Albany. I mean, let's face it, that's why Albany's here. It's because of the Hudson River. But quickly it became commerce, it became rails, now it's cars. So I don't want to go back to this. I mean, going back before we settled it as people coming from Europe, obviously there was a lot different connection to it. But ever since we've come in and migrated, it's definitely become much more commerce and industrial. So that's 1960. Go ahead, Benita.
If folks would just look at that dark line running behind the State University building and see where the people are living and where the people are not living, I mean, that contrast in itself is great even before the plaza was developed. Just just keeping people from getting to the water.
Yeah, always been barriers. This is an important thing, just to orient you. You can just look at the river. This is a what they call the redlining maps that the banks came out with, the governments came out with, the insurance companies used to determine, the hazardous and the areas not to invest in, which was awful. And let's call it what it was racist. And if you notice, this was given to us, Adam Zarenko, who runs the land bank, is part of our group too, and graciously gave it to us. All of the dots that you're seeing are all of their properties that are land bank properties. So we can see a pattern here in between the one before this and this one. You know there were reasons why they put in 787, the arterial, whatever they did. Doesn't make it right as we sit here in 2022. But you can see the evolution of the decision making. This, I always get kicked out of this. This is a rendering of how we can move into the future back in the 60s. We're not quite sure what date it was yet, but that's actually a rendering of what we know now today. Benito and I were talking about how it feels like that 60s zeitgeist of the future and space travel.
And the Jetsons. And I mean, do you see anywhere where anyone could live in this design? It did not take into account people accessing the river. It just looks like the space age highway. And for some reason, someone thought that was beautiful and did not take into account the people. It was just getting the people, to either side of the river.
Yeah, and at that time, like we were talking about earlier, the mentality was different. It was flight that was going on, out to the suburbs. Doesn't make it right, but so you'll see there's a sequence of a few photographs I think are important. So this is about the same era in the 60s before it got executed. You can see a boulevard. I think one thing that's important, if everybody can see my mouse, everyone knows the church right up here. Oh, oops. There we go. Here's the church. So this is after they made the decision to build it, this is what they had to do. Obviously, this also has the Empire State Plaza footprint, which we all know by history wiped out the Italian American community and others, obviously, not just theirs. It's a tough picture to look at. Yeah.
It looks like
There's
a
another-
meteor it looks like
Go
a
ahead.
meteor hit that part of the community.
Yeah, and this is what they were building. So this is only probably a year or two later.
Can you describe, because it's obvious what's happening on the Albany side, but how did it impact the Rensselaer side?
Yeah, obviously we're an Albany audience today, but Rensselaer, you can see the bridge that's there. That bridge goes right, the way it was designed and built and executed, it went right into downtown Rensselaer. So it actually dropped everybody off into downtown. Now, when they did the new design, which we saw in the rendering before, we'll see it again, everything bypasses the city of Rensselaer. It either goes to Route 9, or you can take the big loop exit and go basically over to the train station. And we all know that city of Rensselaer, whom we're going to reach out to and try to partner and discuss, what we can do in the future. Yeah, really devastating. Rarely seen photo. This is during construction. So this is probably similar time frame as the last one where it showed the partial Dunn Memorial Bridge going over the river. It's really the only photograph, at least I've seen, where you can see Steamboat Square, which is the name of the affordable housing towers that we all know by 787 now. But you can see they had whether you believe in the philosophy of those or not, which is a different discussion, but at least it didn't have a highway at the 4th, 5th, or 6th floors going through. And what you're seeing beyond here is during construction going out to Glenmont in the thruway. So we come to what we ended up having. So that all ended up getting built, and it's been completed for 50 years or so. And I want to go back to the question I had before, thinking about the other capital region cities, is Troy, Schenectady, and even Saratoga have continued to progress in their downtowns, their areas. Now, this to me says it all. Not only does it cut off different communities, it also devastated Rensselaer, which you see beyond, where it just split everybody off and you could just avoid everything. You know, it was all made for someone that was outside of the city to come into the city and then go back out and never participate in the city. Tax revenue went down, merchants went away, all those things that go along with it. It's just decades of a bad planning idea, and it was at such a large urban renewal scale that no one's ever been able to compensate for it or make changes to do it. Now, I admit there's been some small things that have happened incrementally. That's good, but it was such a bad, big mistake. You have to counterbalance it.
And a large part of that area, if you just look at all the parking areas that are within that picture in itself, I mean, it just seems to accommodate people coming in more than it does the people who are here.
Correct. Benita and I earlier today were talking about, and it's a hard image to get out of my mind. When I was first starting on this, we have urban planners on it, and the first thing he said, he goes, "You're the only city I've ever seen that has a highway that goes into a parking garage." And once he said that, I can't get it out of my mind. Oops. So that's what we ended up with.
Can I just add something? This is BJ.
Sure.
So, but for Harold Rubin, who was the chief budget examiner of the state of New York, that highway would have continued under where it is right now, under Center Square, under Washington Park, and then come back out on Northern Boulevard and come back out on Southern Boulevard, which would have, there was a project done like that in Memphis, which completely destroyed the center of Memphis.
Yep.
And Harold always proudly kept it was him who essentially, because of his position with the state, was able to divert the funding. So now we do wind up with a parking garage, but it could have been much, much worse. So it was a victory, I think, that happened that maybe not a lot of people know about that history, but he had the picture in his office of what the proposal, similar to what you just showed a little while ago, Scott, the picture of it going under the park and then back out. So it would have been much worse. So it's bad. It's awful right now, but it could have been a lot worse. So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just want to tell you that.
Oh, no problem. Thank you, BJ. No, yeah, I've seen those plans. And you're right. I didn't know the person that stopped it, but it's a big problem now, but it would have been bigger then. So I think this is a great look at this, because what you're seeing is not only 787, the arterial, you see Empire State Plaza, which we all know was, Rockefeller and all the folks. And I think this is a good, when you look in the foreground on this side of the river in the photograph, you see all of the gyrations that the Dunn Memorial goes through to avoid Rensselaer. So no words. What I want to do is I know I want to move along so we can have some question and answers, but this is good. This is from the Congress for New Urbanism, which we've been working with a lot. They're a great group that this is all of the various highway removal projects that are active right now throughout the United States. The green ones are removal projects. The ones with the little X or the red through it are actual highway expansion projects that people are trying to stop. So they're all different highway, different types of projects. And you can see up in the Northeast, there's a concentration of them. And I'm going to show you a few examples of them. You'll see some in the Northeast, but you'll see some examples. So Oakland, California has done theirs. You can see that they had a highway cutting through. They ended up greening it, making it parks, making it boulevards, getting it down so it was pedestrian friendly again. Chattanooga did a wonderful job. They had a very similar problem along the river. And what they did is they got it so it could avoid the river, the traffic. They worked with traffic engineers and everything works well. Portland, Oregon is one of the earlier examples. Obviously, again, right by the river. I mean, it was a fairly common thing back when Eisenhower came up with the Highway Act. There was a lot of railroads, there was a lot of industry, there was a lot of commerce, a lot of ports. So there was a lot of areas that were brownfields at the time that were easy to convert. But we're all a little bit more educated now. At least I like to think, that we know how important it is for all of us to have a good downtown, good riverfront, healthy environments. Closer to home, I was talking about the capital region. I think it's really important that Albany also has 3 cities across upstate going west on I-90. All 3 of them are going through transformations being funded by the state. This is the inner loop. This was the first project done in Rochester. This was done quite a few years. This was actually almost a prototype that was done throughout the United States. I think it's been done for 8 years or so now. They've liked it so much that they're doing some more of their inner loop, and they're doing the northern loop. This was east. Syracuse, our Governor Hochul just announced that they are funding this, and they are taking I-81, a portion of it, and they're actually going down and making it back into the street grids. And this is a combination of transportation engineering, but it also was in the infrastructure bill, there's a pilot program for reconnecting communities also. So this is also part of it.
The other thing is when I was a student in Buffalo, I worked for the Erie County Legislature in the early 80s. And my boss was, he actually gave me a stack of plans for Buffalo because, the waterfront wasn't developed and it was really industrialized when I was a student. He had 25 proposals from all over the world where people were proposing to develop the Buffalo waterfront. And he said, pick 3 of these proposals that you think someone of your generation would want to see happen in the waterfront. And so he wanted a young person's perspective. And I picked 3 out of the 25. And I can honestly say, I don't see any of the plans that I picked there, but it's taken 40 years for it to happen. So we're not saying this is going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen, all at once, but we want to start with for grassroots education, let everyone understand what this 787 has done to the community and what the community could look like if we didn't have this highway cutting us off from the river, and how, we could all benefit by having that area changed.
Did you say what it could look like?
Did I say what it could look like? No, I didn't, but
No.
you can.
I think I can. Maybe like that.
Yes.
So one thing in it, I do want to end on this, and actually there's another slide, but we're not coming in, and I know I've spoken to BJ and several others. We're not coming in saying this is what it must be, because not everybody in the community has contributed yet. That would be an insult. What we're trying to do, and what we did as a group, we wanted to get people to start being educated about we're not alone. It's happening across the state. It's happening across the United States. And what we're showing is we know it can be this, it could be this. This is one of many, many solutions. There's different ways of approaching it. It's going to have to be phased in most likely. But what we want to do is we all see what it is, and with all the layers of government, because Albany is the New York State capital and everything, it's really hard for people to get beyond the idea of why we can do it. I mean, if other cities in Capital Region can transition and evolve, and across I-90 on upstate New York, they can do it, why can't we?
Well, the other thing is with climate change also, I mean, this is a great opportunity for us to work to be better stewards and to change our city so that we can address the needs because of climate change. And then it also addresses a lot of the environmental justice issues. So that's why it's really great that we're starting to talk about this now. And it's not going to happen overnight, but if we start to educate people and let them know the benefits of us addressing what this does do and what it can do, then I think we'll be able to do this right in the future. We need to have as many voices as possible.
And thank you, Benita. And I just want to say a couple of things in closing. Is if you look at the bridge here on this, it is going back. I know it's so easy to look at what we're doing on the river and all the green and the development, but a couple of things. One is look at the bridge going back there. Also, it's important to note that some may not know, New York State Economic Development Council just had at the Capitol Center, just had their 2-day conference, statewide conference. And in it and during it, Senator Gillibrand announced that there's not only is there funding for I-81 in Syracuse and the inner loops in Rochester, but certainly 787 and doing studies for that certainly can go underneath the Connecting Communities program that's in the infrastructure bill. So it's happening not just at the grassroots, and the reason it's important to talk to all of you, you're all about, everyone here is about the city of Albany, and that's what our group is what's the best solution for all of us. These questions right here are when we go out to neighborhoods. We're going to be doing community conversations in 7 neighborhoods as well. The first one's in the South End at the end of March. But these are the kind of questions we start asking everybody. We're not asking for answers tonight. I mean, you're welcome to, but those are things that we're always looking at. So on that note, I'd like to close. I hope I didn't take too long. Sorry about that. And feel free to write down that website, because we have a lot of information. Not only do we want to talk about vision, but we also have economic data on there. And we also have, I would encourage everybody to look at the blog and the resource pages too. We're trying to be totally transparent with everything that is being thought about and being brought about, shall we say. On that note, I'll stop sharing screen. Thank you for your time, everybody.
Thank you, Scott, and thank you, Benita. I kind of had a flashback to when David Hochfelder was here back in September to talk about the 98 acres in Albany digital history project, and all of the neighborhoods that were uprooted, and it was just takes me back. We had a few hands. Alan, did you have a hand up earlier, Alan? Oh, you're good. Okay. We had, let's see, Violetta DeRosa. Let's go to you first, and Helderberg.
Sure. Thank you very much for your presentation. I just want to say 100%, I support your initiative. Whatever you need, I think it's wonderful. And I really appreciate how much you are seeking input from the community. I'm just wondering, because I feel that many Albanians, we do feel that the city could never be whole until we can repair the 787. And so are you feeling pushback from others that they don't want this? I'm just trying to understand. And that's one question. And my second question is, besides education and advocacy, what else would you like us to do to get the word out? Because to me, I mean, this is really critical to not only, as you mentioned, the health of our community, it's the spiritual and the physical health of our community and the economic health of it too. So again, thank you in advance.
Thank you for the question. Benita, would you like to take any of them? Before I go on?
One of the things that I've been doing is you can join the collaborative. The more voices that we have, the more grassroots voices that we have in the collaborative that are talking to the people that they know and that they trust, and all your alliances, we'd love to have, because when people see that people are on board, they'll be more likely to support this and understand this. And if I speak to someone, they're not going to understand as much as someone who has a relationship with you or even want to hear it. But the only opposition that I've heard are from people who have vacation homes north of Albany, who tend to breeze by the city. They want to use 787 to pass the city so they can get to their vacation homes, and they really don't care about the city. They don't spend their dollars here. They don't, live here. And 787 is a great way to a shortcut to get to 87 to continue north. If those people had to stop here, maybe they'd spend some of their dollars here. Maybe they'd see that this is a nice community for them to be in. And so I resent the fact that, they see that as a great bypass. And I hope that you'll share what we're doing with everyone because that's what I do. In every organization I'm involved in, I explain the value of this, the history of this. And most people have been receptive, other than people that see us as a bypass.
Are you finding also, we have so many commuters from the suburbs. Are we getting pushback from them too?
Well, they don't see how it can be done. And they think that we're talking about tear that down all at once. When actually, if it's a collaborative, it's going to have everybody talking about how we can resolve this. It's going to take into account what, how are they going to get back to Saratoga and Glens Falls and so on. But it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to just rip the 787 out. And I'm sure that will be taken into account. How do the commuters get in and out of the city? But, we've been neglected. The city of Albany's been neglected. Our taxes are so high in Albany because people take their dollars elsewhere. They tear up our roads. They do all these things that impact the city. You've got a lot of tax exempt property in the city of Albany. You have state property. I mean, so where's the money coming in to maintain Albany? So we need to, at least fight for us, fight for the people who live in Albany and protect the people and provide good housing. And those folks that want to get north, they have to, we have to talk about how that's going to happen.
100%. Thank you. You'll be hearing from me, Vanina.
Okay, so there's 5 folks with their hands up. So we're going to try to get to each. Let's go to Helen and John. And it's going to go to Dan, then Will, then Ed, then Riley. So Helen and John first. Go ahead.
Just wanted to mention the Livingston Avenue Bridge that's north of the one that takes Amtrak over the river. I hope that's still on somebody's radar. There was a push a few years ago to make that. It was an old dilapidated railroad bridge, and there was a push to make that a pedestrian crossing. I hope that's still people still know that.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. As a matter of fact, Martin Daly, who in the Livingston Avenue Bridge Coalition is part of our collaborative, and we're big advocates for it. Just to remind everybody, the goal is to make it so it's walkable and bikeable and all those things to get across the river and start connecting both sides of the river. Just to give you a little update, I don't know if anybody saw the mayor's State of the City address. She mentioned that. I know Senator Schumer has been pushing for that and pushing Amtrak to do that. So one thing I'll do, and I'm going to cross-pollinate the questions. One question was how could we be supportive? One thing I'll do is I'll send to Zach, if you don't mind, all of our social media sites and our websites so he can pass it around. We had an interview, a wonderful interview with Martin Daly, and I'll encourage anybody to go see it. It's on our YouTube page, and it's on I think it was through Instagram and maybe LinkedIn, but he did a great explaining what they were doing. It looks like that is going to be funded. Nothing's a guarantee in government until it's done, but.
Okay.
Okay, let's go to
Thanks.
Dan Van Riper.
Yeah, you're not the first people to come along and say we need to connect the community with the riverfront. And it's something that needs to be done, and I'm glad we're getting a real serious effort going here. But something that I don't ever hear is about connecting the river to the community. And if you go along, paddling along the riverfront, now I don't mean zipping by in a motorboat, because my wife and I like to go paddling a lot in the river. What you basically have along much of downtown Albany is a wall. There's a wall. There's like nothing there. One of the big improvements that was made in the last 10 years or so was Jennings Landing, which is just another wall. There's really, it's really extends this attitude that the river is not welcome. There's a few spots along the south end where you can land a boat and such, but perhaps a really big component of connecting the community to the river is finding ways for the river to find ways for people who are moving on the river for whatever reason, for recreation or for commercial reasons, to be able to access the community through the river. So historically, of course, like you said, that's why Albany is here. Why don't we bring that back?
I agree with you thoroughly. And one of my dreams is to see an environmental education center put on the river whenever we do something to the river. But the other thing is I volunteer with the Underground Railroad History Project. I used to be on their board, and I work with a group of Albany high school students for the Young Abolitionist Leadership Institute. And I can honestly tell you, none of the kids in my group have ever been to the river, and they live in Arbor Hill. They don't know how to get to the river. When I first moved to Albany, I lived on Hudson near Lark, and I walked down Madison Avenue, and I couldn't figure out how to get to the river. This is in 1989. I asked several people in the South End how to get to the river, and no one could tell me. I tried 2 or 3 different times on foot and bicycle, and then finally I figured out by car how to get there. I'm planning. I'm working with CDPHP right now to try to put together a bike event for these young kids in Arbor Hill. A lot of them don't have bicycles, to give them a tour of the river. They've never been on the Slater. They don't even know how to get to the river. So this is the beginning of me trying to connect people to the river. I'm a leader for a national organization called Outdoor Afro, and I take people of color to the Adirondacks, to the Catskills, to place green spaces around here because I want them to connect to nature. But they can't even connect to nature in their own community. Do you know there are people that don't even know what wildlife is in downtown? And I've had to try to teach people about some of the wildlife, stop people from chasing skunk and raccoons down the street because they didn't know what they were. There's a great opportunity here for us to connect people and educate them about the community that they live in. People don't even know. I got a grant from DEC some years ago, and I really wanted to use that grant to show people, where does your garbage go when it magically disappears from in front of your house? That guy who's changing his oil in the street, where is that? What is your drinking water? Where is that going? So, we need to deal with those simple things within the city to connect them to the land that they live on, to let them really understand that. And the river is so vital in us letting people understand our impact on the environment and the climate, and to isolate them from the river is totally counter, to us trying to move forward with this.
I agree.
Right.
And the one,
Thank you. Excellent.
Yeah, one thing I do want to add to that, and Dan, it goes right to the heart of what you're saying, is in the past, in the city, and this is true in a lot of cities, they're used to people that are in control and in power telling people in the community what they're going to do and say, aren't you grateful? I think what we're trying to do that's different is get everybody in a big conversation and have the community literally drive it. So Dan, your point is perfect, that I think a lot of the planners and people that would come in that are experts wouldn't even know there was a wall on the river. So it's all of our voices that can say, here's the problem, let's solve it, you know, instead of letting them define it, solve it, which never solves the problem because they never defined it properly.
All right, Will, you got a question?
Yeah, first of all, I want to say thank you so much for the presentation. This is definitely something that's close to my heart. I went to college in Syracuse, and I decided to go into the planning field because all the outreach for I-81 was going on at that time. So I definitely was, it was definitely amazing just to see kind of how that process works, and just kind of the different reasons why highways go up, it went up during the time that they did, and just the equity issues that they created and displacement and all that sort of stuff, all things that I mean could be basically can be attributed to every highway project. But I remember very distinctly some of those meetings, and almost everyone who was against kind of the removal of highways were always people from outside the city, and people in surrounding suburbs and stuff like that. So I just wanted to ask if you guys, I know Violetta touched on it, but have you guys actually done specific outreach to people in other municipalities, either in the county or across the river? And then kind of had a general question. And then I also want to bring up that I believe that the city is still working on their long-term waterfront revitalization program, LWRP. I don't know, I just wanted to bring that part up, but yeah, thank you so much.
I can address a little bit of it. Yeah, the issue related to the commuters is there were two things that we were worried about, not worried, but we knew our concerns that were fairly, I don't, predictable, for lack of a better word, is certainly the inconvenience to those outside. You know, Benita hit on it a little bit, people passing through, you know, whether they're passing through or they're coming in and going out conveniently. So we knew that was going to be an issue. It hasn't been the pushback has not been as bad as we thought. I'm pleasantly surprised. There will be, don't get me wrong. That's not saying it's not there. Number two is we actually have traffic engineers in our group, and we haven't unveiled them yet, but we're doing some analysis and studies that will be coming out with that will be directly related to how things get dispersed through the city and how things can get alleviated, and have really hard data. We always try to match what we're imagining or what we're showing people as a design, and you know, so they don't go cynical on us. We'll say, but here's the reality. This is what your commute, how it will affect your commute. And I'm not saying it's going to be bad. So we're doing that. And we are doing some reach outs to the community. I kind of alluded to it in our presentation, but right now we have 7 targeted areas that we want to go into, which is South End, downtown, North Albany, Arbor Hill. Then we want to also go into East Greenbush and Rensselaer. And I know we're talking to some political leaders in the commuters area, you know, starting there without just going into Latham and being ambushed. Because really this, I think it's important, all of us really believe in the fact that unlike when it was done back in the 60s, that was all dictated down to the community. This really has to be driven by the community and not by the commuters or the powers that be. It has to be a group effort. Obviously, you have to have everybody contributing. So, hope that answered your question.
All right, Ed, you're up.
Hi, thank you. I think this is a wonderful concept. Now, just a few years ago, I remember sitting in on a traffic engineering study and presentation that they were doing about boulevarding 787. Yeah, I'm wondering, is this built upon that, or is this a totally separate effort? That was number one. Number two, Benita, Albany Bicycle Coalition, be very happy to work with you guys. On that bike ride you were talking about. I think that sounds
I
wonderful.
was going to call you too, so thank you.
Yeah. No, we're right there with you. And third quick thing about the crossings of the Hudson. I really like the idea of replacing that bridge. I know that the only crossing we have now, until they do something with Livingston Ave, is the Dunn Memorial for pedestrians and cyclists. And it's really, if you've done it, it's really horrible. You've got all the chain link fences that you're walking through. I think somebody once described it as all the ambiance of a cattle entrance to a slaughterhouse. It's just awful looking when we've got such a beautiful river and the skylines surrounding us, and that it's just a terrible experience. So it would be great to improve that. And now, did you guys also have like a survey like at the last summer? I remember doing a survey for somebody about the waterfront, and one of the ideas that we talked about was that I had offered, and some other people have talked about, is possibility of having like water taxi or pedestrian bike ferry option from Albany over to Rensselaer to go back and forth, so that people don't have to go over those bridges, and people would be able to experience the river in a different way other than just having to buy a ticket on the the Dutch cruise. Not something that anybody can do. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Ed. Yeah, the answer, I'll kind of jump around. The survey that you did was a city initiative. It was called Waves. And we've been in contact and talking to, there's a group out of Saratoga that was overseeing it, that was brought in as a consultant. And so we've been talking to them, and they've shared data with us, and we're doing the same. So I don't want you to think it's for naught, because we did have a meeting with some of the folks in the city, and we're all sharing data. This is the whole intent. You did have a question about the boulevard. I want to answer that kind of directly. If it's the one I think you're talking about, it came out, I believe, in 2018. It was done by Clough Harbor, and it looked at all of 787, anywhere from maintenance and costs and life cycles. And it had, just to give you a little background, it had like a 2 or 3 page section on, it could be a boulevard. It said very clearly, when you read the actual words, which no one does, it actually says it can be a boulevard. It doesn't have enough traffic to justify all these lanes and all this concrete, and it could go down to a boulevard. But apparently at that time, DOT was pushing back really hard on actually even putting it into the report. So it did get in. Yes, we picked up on it. We're not part of that group, but the engineer that was the project manager on it is part of the collaborative. So she's doing she's furthering the studies, especially post-pandemic. We have to realize a lot has changed since 2018.
We're going to be able to take one more question, folks, and it's going to be Riley's. Okay, I'm sorry, but we do have to move on to the next presenter. But Riley, go ahead with your question, please.
Okay, I'm going to keep it quick. I am a part of the new Downtown Albany Neighborhood Association. And while we're just getting things started, obviously, because our district runs along the Hudson, I think it would be very important for us to also focus on this. And I'd love to collaborate in the future, either on cleanups or maybe some social media presence, or even presentations at a future meeting once we get those going, hopefully in person soon. So I was just wondering if we could get your emails in the chat.
Yes. Yeah, I can get all that stuff to you. What I'll do is I know you guys have more to go on the agenda. I'll put it in the chat. I'll put all the links in the chat, and I'll put all of our contact information in there.
I just put mine in.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Benita.
Yep.
And thank you for the presentation.
Thank you very much, Scott. Thank you very much, Benita. It was a very, very excellent presentation. We appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody.
All right. And if anybody else had additional questions, feel free to email Scott and Benita directly, okay? So next we're gonna hear from Katie Loom with River Keeper. Jen Benson was here last year, and I believe Katie is the new volunteer and outreach coordinator with River Keeper, and she's here to talk about Sweep 2022. Katie, thank you for joining us whenever you're ready.
Yeah, thank you, Zach. Hi, everybody. Thank you for welcoming me into your meeting tonight. As Zach said, my name is Katie Leung. I'm the new volunteer and outreach coordinator for Riverkeeper. And just to give a brief overview of what that means, I pretty much run Riverkeeper's volunteer programs and work on organizing service projects. That's including cleanups and tree plantings. And that's with both public and corporate volunteers across the Hudson Valley and New York City. And I will primarily work on the sweep, which is our annual day of service that we organize at over 100 different sites each year. And I'll show a very short presentation. I would have had a longer presentation, but I have been quite busy, so I didn't want to do a whole long presentation and then have all of you listen to me ramble. So very quickly. All right. Yeah, so again, this is our annual day of service. Pretty much this is our 11th annual Riverkeeper Sweep. And so we began back in 2012. Pretty much just to give a bit of statistics, it's projected that by 2050, that plastics will exceed the volume of fish in our oceans and will account for 20% of the world's total oil consumption. And currently over 660 species have been documented to have ingested plastic marine debris and unfortunately entangled in this debris, such as fishing nets and other discarded fishing gear. So according to the United Nations Environmental Program. So one huge way that we're combating this is the Riverkeeper Sweep, in which it takes place throughout the Hudson Valley and its tributaries. And you can join either a cleanup or a tree planting project or an invasive species removal project at a location near you or just about anywhere on the Hudson River. And each year, more than 2,000 volunteers turn out. And our last sweep, which happened to be our 10th anniversary, had the biggest turnout yet with 2,600 volunteers. And I'll read off a few numbers because I can't really have them off the top of my head. So over the course of 10 years, the Riverkeeper Sweep has involved 951 projects and over 18,000 volunteers who have removed 305 tons of debris, including 32 tons of recycling and 1,675 tires. And volunteers have also planted and maintained over 4,655 trees and native plants and removed hundreds of pounds of invasive species. And our next Riverkeeper Sweep, if you would like to take part in all of that, it'll be this May 7th, and that's a Saturday. We usually have the sweep on every Saturday of every May, first Saturday of every May, I should say. So if you're interested, you can feel free to email me, and that's my email right here, kleung@riverkeeper.org. Let me know if you're interested, and let me know if there's like a location in your community that is in need of a cleanup or removal of invasive plants or another type of restoration project. Zach is going to be a sweep leader again for this year, and Zach, I'm not sure how many years you've been a sweep leader for Riverkeeper, but yeah, your help is definitely like super valued. And this will be my first time organizing sweep, so I'm very excited to take on this huge undertaking. So yeah, and if you're also interested to go the extra mile, so not just be a volunteer, you can definitely become a sweep leader, in which you do get to organize for your own site. But yeah, for sure, you can just still join in as a volunteer, and registration for sites will open up beginning of April, excuse me. Yeah, so that's pretty much like the gist of everything. So again, if you have any questions, you could just email me, or you can ask me any questions that you have now. So that's my very short mini presentation. Thank you all for listening. We do have a few sites already in Albany, and Zach's site included in the Pine Bush.
Thank you, Katie. And yeah, this will be my second year of being a sweep leader with the Riverkeeper event. So it's a great time. Does anybody have questions for Katie?
I can't help but mention Tivoli Lake Preserve is the other location for the sweep.
Yes, that's correct, Tivoli Lake, and I could tell you the third site. So we have Tivoli Lake, Pine Bush, and Albany County Rail Trail.
Okay. Ed, you got a question, Ed?
Yeah, just what should people bring, where, that kind of thing. What should they expect if they're going to be doing a sweep?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely clothes that can get dirty, sturdy shoes, definitely closed-toed, work gloves, hand sanitizers, and mask just in case if you get into close proximity with folks. So all of those basics, and those items will be listed and sent to you as a reminder once you do register for a site, which again will open up in early April.
So do you end up removing like milfoil and water chestnuts from waterways?
It depends on the project. There will be a few sites that will require kayaks, and you do have to be an experienced kayaker to get out there and possibly remove invasives if the invasives are aquatic. But largely, I think for invasive projects, so far what we have will be land projects.
Any other questions for Katie? All right. Well, Katie, thank you very much, and I'll be seeing you in May there with the sweep. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you so much. And I think I will hop off right now. So thank you so much
Katie.
again, all of you, for inviting me.
Thanks a lot, Katie. Appreciate it.
Oh, and I'll throw my email in the chat.
Oh, sure. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. So next, I know John O'Grady in the West End and Atomic Feeders with South End Community Collaborative had reached out to me about this document that the Habitat for Humanity of the Capital Region has been working on. It's called Making Affordable Home Ownership Work in Albany. And they're here to present about it tonight to all of us. So Tom, John, Christine, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, I will defer to Christine, who is from Habitat, directs Habitat. So she practically wrote the documents. Tom?
Great. Thanks, John. So I'm Christine Chudy. I'm the executive director at Habitat for Humanity. We serve Habitat for Humanity Capital District, so we serve Albany County and Rensselaer County. And what emerged from some of the South End Community Collaborative meetings with Atomic Feeders was a working group of just about all of the housing providers in the city of Albany. And so we came together the beginning of September to start working on a policy platform, a list of solutions to increase affordable, equitable homeownership within the city of Albany. And we were focusing specifically on historically redlined neighborhoods. So we're looking at that same map that Scott had in his presentation, that shows the neighborhoods, that shows the high rates of vacant buildings owned by the land bank. And so we came together and we have a document that I can put the links to that in the chat. But just as a quick overview, we identified a number of barriers to homeownership in Albany. And then we proposed seven proposals, 7 solutions. I don't think any of them are going to surprise you, about what we believe it would take to increase homeownership here. But a main issue that we've focused on, and it's our first proposal, is around the housing supply issue. And so, I'm sure a lot of us have been hearing about this. There's a real housing supply crisis across the country, and a lot of people don't think that we have that same problem here in Albany because we have so many vacant buildings. Like, there's high vacancy here. I know, a lot of people ask Habitat, ask the land bank, like, what's going on with all the buildings with the red X's on them. And so you look around and you see buildings where there aren't people living in them. But what we do also see is that there's a complete lack of quality homes that are affordable for people to buy, especially people of moderate and low incomes. So our first proposal really talks about that supply issue and talks about how the economics of rehabbing a building or building new in so many of Albany's neighborhoods just don't work. Like, it will cost you $250,000 plus to build a new, well, it'll cost Habitat. I won't say what it would cost anyone here, but for Habitat for Humanity, we're really clear about our numbers. So it costs Habitat about $250,000 to build a single family home, usually a townhouse, an attached townhouse, but a single family home. And that house will generally appraise for $150,000 or less in any of the neighborhoods where we build. So there's a huge gap that we fill with subsidies. So we're really focused on that part too. But some of the other proposals that are that we've outlined are, increasing access to credit, addressing the current renter eviction crisis, which, if left unchecked, will not only impact the current generation of renters, but will lock future generations out from homeownership altogether, if that's what they, if that's something that, is in their plan. We talk about homebuyer preparation, education. We look at vacant buildings and codes issues. So it's all in there. And yeah, I guess I'll just leave it at that, and I'll answer any questions. I'll also put those links in there. It's a 15-page document, but we do have an executive summary too. And we have some social media graphics. And, what we're hoping is that we can have even more organizations and maybe CANA or neighborhood associations sign on to this. I see Arlene Way's here. So we already have some folks who have signed on with their organizations, but we're always looking for more too.
If I could just add a few things.
Yes, please, Tom.
I think Scott's presentation was a really good illustration that it's not just one thing that created the disinvestment in the South End or Arbor Hill or West Hill. It's a bunch of things. And in the South End, it was housing as well as redlining, or highways as well as redlining. The proposals, some of these are really big ticket items, in the same way that removing the highways from the riverfront are big ticket items. We're not proposing that the city pay for them. Creating some kind of a housing fund would require identifying another source of money and creating the political will to have that source of money put towards affordable home ownership or affordable housing. And that's one reason why we really need to have support from as many neighborhood associations as possible and from CANA as possible. You'll see at the end of the document that Christine is showing you, there's a list of supporters so far. We want to grow that. The same is true with the issue of the vacant buildings. Been with us forever, it seems, will be with us forever, unless we figure out an actual plan and have enough, have a plan that really makes sense to outside funders to either stabilize these buildings or in some cases demolish them, but demolish them proactively rather than as an emergency. That's going to be somewhat controversial, but otherwise it depresses the value of the entire block that a vacant building is on. Now is the time to start to think about how we can actually turn that around. The other policy proposals are, a lot of them are issues to take to banks or take to the city and so on, but those are the two that are going to really require a lot of money and a big push. So we're looking for your help.
Thanks, Tom. And I should say just one other thing. I skipped over this in an effort to be brief, but I think I skipped over some context. So the reason that this particular group came together to focus on homeownership and not broader affordable housing, which we all know is incredibly important in all of its iterations, is we've been looking, and this also came right out of the Times Union's A City Divided series that they did. And we're looking at homeownership as not the only solution, but a huge piece of the puzzle to address the astronomical gap in wealth between races in Albany. We know that there's a huge racial homeownership gap, a huge racial wealth gap in Albany compared to peer cities across the country. And so homeownership plays obviously, a huge role in families developing wealth. And so we believe that in order to address that problem, we have to invest as much as was disinvested over decades in some of our neighborhoods. And the appraisal gap, the development gap, I think whatever we're calling it, where it costs a lot of money to rehab or build a house in most of Albany, but you can sell it for much less. Like that is the problem that we need to address. And those property values, those fluctuations that Tom was just talking about too, they mirror the former redlining maps almost exactly, of places where you have that sort of upside down financial situation if you're trying to increase housing. So that's why we focused on the homeownership issue and kept it sort of narrow for this first paper.
Okay, thank you, Christine. Is there any discussion from the CANA members? Any need for clarification? So you're trying to increase home ownership in the city.
Yes, yeah, increase equitable access to affordable home ownership. And so if anyone does have any questions, Tom and I put our information in the chat. You can also read the policy paper at the link I provided. And if any individual neighborhood, oh, and Louise is here too, good. So she asked, is there a coalition working on affordable housing? Oh yes, and so John can talk about housing for all too. So maybe I'll end my part there and let John talk.
Yeah, Housing for All supports this document.
So I just want to add that Habitat really put a lot of work into organizing this and creating a really good document. But other people who are involved in this, Will Sakula here from the Land Bank, Arlene Way, the Affordable Housing Coalition. It was a pretty broad effort.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments? I reviewed the document before the meeting, and I think it's something. I'm sorry, my cat's meowing. Sorry about that. I think it's worthy of CANA's support. Does anybody else feel so?
I mean, I think it makes, I mean, I haven't read the document, but it, I mean, that seems to make all the sense in the world to me. I'm wondering, I'm because I'm also part of the Melrose Neighborhood Association, and I feel like I was pretty much following everything you were saying, but some of the information was new, so it's a little bit hard to keep track of it all. And I'm wondering if this was the kind of presentation that you could do to individual neighborhood association meetings, but I'm wondering if sort of at least maybe a short set of slides to kind of help people visualize and put the information together. I'm wondering if that would be helpful to bring around. So for example, we could have you at the Melrose Neighborhood Association, but I'm wondering if that would help sort of get some of the concepts across. Because if you're
given our time constraints, we'd be happy to do that.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. And I think you're right. There's a lot there. So I think having
there's a lot there, and I think people are really would find it. I mean, I think it's fascinating, and I think people would really want to learn about it, and I imagine really support it. But I'm just wondering if we can maybe make the information maybe a little bit more accessible to individual neighborhood associations.
Well, I think one thing that Zach can do is just, if you put that link out to everybody, then they can take a look at it.
Mhm.
It does, I mean, it's not a long read, but it's a read that it takes a little while.
Arlene, you have your hand up, Arlene?
Yes, I do. Um, I really hope that CANA, that we all could come to a point where we would take a look at this and would adopt it as something that CANA would support. A friend of mine would say a lot that a rising tide lifts all boats. And that would be the case of this. So what we would be doing in multiple neighborhoods, okay, would have a significant impact on all of the neighborhoods. A lot of, we had some different groups come together, spend a lot of time on this. And I think, I like the idea of sharing slides because I understand that for many of us, it could be some complicated stuff, but not so much, when you see it all visually. That's what I think. So I'm hoping that we could figure out a way that we can take a look at this. And at some point, CANA will come and say, okay, this is something that we can support. And I'm pretty sure that you will want to support this because you will see benefits to all of our neighborhoods, not just Arbor Hill and West Hill and South End. All of our neighborhoods would benefit from it. So that's just me. But this group did, Christine, you did good work. All of you will. It's been a pleasure. And this is one of many initiatives that's going on. So I'm just saying, hold on to your hats. In about 3 or 4 years, we're not going to be looking like the same place because, of the deep thought and investment that we're giving and the actual activities that are going on. So we're not just dreaming or visioning, but we're working at the same time. So, and we're working as a collaborative, which is really great. So if that's me, I'll be quiet, go on to the next people. This is good.
Wait, Colin, you have your hand up?
Yes, thank you. My hope and dream is that we will see CANA be a signatory to a report like this, if not this one. So I hope that everybody will have a chance to review it and come to some comfort level with it so that CANA can be a signatory to it. In my own experience in the Mansion neighborhood, one of the things that I looked at when I first moved into the neighborhood was the degree to which one of the most depressed streets in our neighborhood was absentee owned, and the level of home ownership on that street was only 22%. And I think there's a direct correlation between the level of emotional and financial investment that comes with home ownership and maintaining the quality of life on a street. So that in and of itself is a quality of life policy issue that we should be supporting. There's also the issue of the cheapest way to have affordable housing is to simply have the existing housing stock maintained. And the best way to achieve that maintenance level is by having an owner investor who's willing to continue to keep the property in good condition, keep the roof tight, keep the wiring up to date, all of those things that eventually become, if they're not maintained, huge costs to repair or replace. And that gets back to what Christine was saying about the $250,000 minimum investment to build a new unit. It's about the same to rehab a unit that's gone totally derelict. So I think that we need to recognize that it's positive policy for the city of Albany to do everything in its power to promote homeownership and create balanced neighborhoods where there are solid owners on each block who are committed to maintaining the quality of life and keeping their properties in good condition.
think there was a tick. Does anybody else have anything to add tonight?
Well, like, I'm just listening to Colin, it made me wonder, how do you keep people, people buy property that don't even live here, might not even be in the country, and they just hold on to it, hoping that it'll appreciate without even trying to put any time or effort into maintaining it. So how do you prevent those kinds of things from happening in Albany? When I lived in California, I'd met people who were asking me about real estate in New York State, especially upstate, because they thought, well, they could just buy the property, hold on to it, and, eventually, when someone wanted it, they'd make a profit on it. And there are a lot of people who do that, and it's unfortunate because it really hurts the communities. So how do you keep that from happening?
That's a really great question. One of the ways that a lot of investors like that, a lot of out-of-town investors had been getting properties was through the county foreclosure auctions, which now we have, the Albany County Land Bank, and Will's here from the land bank. So that the land bank process has replaced, for the most part, the county auctions, and part of their process is to ensure that it's going to someone, hopefully local, but not always, but usually in the community, someone who has the means to keep it up. And there's like reverter clauses to make sure that if the person doesn't do what they say they're going to do, if they let it fall into disrepair, Colin, to your point, that property can go back to the land bank. But just from outside investment, that's another part of the housing supply problem. We're seeing even in Albany, and I say even in Albany because we're not, a major housing market. We haven't historically been. But even here, you're seeing a lot of investors buying even single family homes and sitting on them, and they're just disappearing from the market. And really first time homeowners are having an incredibly difficult time breaking in, particularly first generation homeowners or homeowners of lower wealth. So that's a really important piece of the puzzle. And it's also something that we'll need to look out for. Part of what we're trying to do is to stabilize neighborhoods and to hopefully increase property values and to have all these great ripple effects. But as that happens, it will become even more attractive for outside investors to gobble up something and take it off the market. And so we have to think about how we're developing in a way that guards against displacement, and that makes sure that we're creating communities that will continue to be affordable for the residents who live there now. Because what we're not trying to do is create necessarily, we want to welcome people to Albany, that's great. But we're not, aiming to create affordable or home ownership opportunities for outside investors. We're looking to create, homes for folks who live here. But yeah, that's one of the big questions, Vanita, for sure.
And part of what we're doing, unfortunately, is responding to a situation that's gotten well out of hand. And the only way to address that is through really aggressive code enforcement and aggressive policing, which is difficult and expensive and all the rest of it. Part of that has to do also with the laws that do protect property owners, and we've had some changes in that, small changes, but I'm hoping that this is going to continue to be under review at the state level.
So I guess my question for Christine is when are you looking to go live with this?
So we sort of did a soft publish of it. So it's out there. We've sent it to a bunch of people and trying to, just get some feedback and generate some excitement. So there's not a deadline, as soon as possible, obviously, to get names on there, but there's not a particular deadline that we're working with.
Okay.
And also just say that a number of the housing organizations, maybe all of them that have signed on, and I put that list in the chat, have also used this to base some funding requests on. So the American Rescue Plan funding, which was the federal stimulus money that's available, the city just began accepting applications for that funding this week. And so a number of us have used this to actually, to fund projects that are actually on the ground. But the original question, yeah, we don't have a specific deadline. So if this is something where you'd want to, meet again or talk about this at your next meeting, that would be absolutely fine.
I definitely think it would be a good idea just to have the CANA members have the opportunity to review the proposal and then maybe come back and and talk about it, you think, next month? Does that sound good, everybody? Just so everybody has time to review? Okay, we'll do that. We'll put it back on the agenda for next month and open it up for discussion again, and then we'll take an action one way or the other. So that sound good?
Thank you.
I'll send that out with the next email, the link to the latest version of the document, and then we'll go from there. Okay. Sounds good. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks very much. All right. What's next on the agenda? Okay, we're going to move it along. Codes Committee report with John O'Grady. West End, John.
Yes, speaking of code enforcement, we really do have a very active codes department now called Buildings and Regulatory Compliance. Our committee met with, the CANA Codes Committee met with Rick LaJoy, the director, last time February 11th. There's a 1.5-page document minutes of that meeting, which Zach will circulate. And it's hard to summarize except to say that there's a lot of both initiatives and extensions of things that they've already done that are helping with the problem. The main thing they're helping with is not the people who are now buying houses. The land bank is helping with that, but it's helping with the problem that has been around for decades. So they are implementing a law to make emergency repairs when the landlord can't or won't. They go in, they charge the landlord for doing it. He hasn't had to use that, he said, because just the threat of that gets them over there and to fix up the problem so that people don't get evicted. There's a new law about posting landlords' contacts right in the building in a prominent place. That's being implemented. And the big thing they're doing now is applying for some of the rescue funds to add 3 staff to what's already 3 staff into a fair housing unit, as they call it. It's just a variety of services and types of enforcement and things that they're going to push. They would be hiring 6 people. They would be hiring 3 people, and they've already got 3 already. And so this is going to help. I'm very encouraged about what's going on with code enforcement right now.
Great. Thank you very much, John. And I'll send out those codes committee minutes with the next email. Okay, so let's go now to new business. First, we're going to hear from Violetta DeRosa, Vice Chair of the Helderberg Neighborhood Association, with an update on the Academy Station Post Office. Violetta, when you're ready. Just got on mute there.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Thank you, Zach. So I'll be very brief. As some of you might know, many of you might know, there was a rally February 18th that was really, it was a lot of media coverage around it. There was, Paul Tonko was there. It was really a great event. And the coverage as well helped elicit some response from the post office as well. And some of that is that, and they did come out with a statement stating that they will not be closing it anytime soon, and that they are committed to keeping a post office in the vicinity. So we do have updates, and I'm going to share the petition link with you all. So if you haven't signed it, please do sign it. I ask you to also share it with your contacts on your Facebook, on your listservs. As you know, right now we have 643 that have signed. I think we've have great support from local officials, federal officials as well. So we're all moving in the right direction, but we have to continue our efforts. So I'm going to share those, the link with you, and you will see we also have the updates in that petition as well. And we have in that petition a link to a fact sheet. So really everything you need is in the document or in the link that I'm going to share with you. And so I'll put that in the chat, and then that's really all for me unless anybody has questions.
Well, I definitely want to point out that, I've been going there now for my postal services, and if anybody can, go there to support the post office, that would be really appreciated.
Yes, that's great, because that's one of the things that they have been saying, the post office, that revenue is down. And so we really wanted to help support the post office. Also want to thank the city of Albany. They made a $20,000 purchase of postage there. So that was a great show of support as well.
Great. Thank you very much. Thanks, Violetta. Now I want to just go over to Danielle Hilly with a block at a time. She asked for just a couple of moments to bring up an issue she's been discussing with other neighborhood residents. Danielle, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Ready.
So the issue is with National Grid's trimming of the trees. A lot of the trees in our neighborhoods we've noticed are really aggressively trimmed by National Grid. In fact, there's like one that's a couple doors down from me that's basically just a stump. It has like 2 branches. They have just completely destroyed the tree. Honestly, at this point, we'll be lucky if it survives like another winter because of the way that they've been cutting them. Several other residents in the neighborhood have seen the trees be cut down like this. And in fact, a neighbor went out and stopped them from cutting a tree that absolutely had nothing to do with power lines. They just kind of indiscriminately cut the trees down the street. And a couple of us were wondering if this is something, well, first of all, we think it would be appropriate for on a larger scale, because this can't just be happening in our neighborhood. So I was kind of just wondering if people would be interested in, reaching out to National Grid, maybe getting their public resource officer, and then with DGS and stuff, and our council people, and see what can be done. Because, we have seen a lot of tree loss over the last couple of years. Some of it is avoidable with the elm bug or the ash weevil, I think it's called. But other ones are definitely not unavoidable. Like they've taken out full-size trees, they're replacing them with smaller trees. There's, they clear cut the park. So, we feel pretty strongly that we should be at least taking a proactive step to address this rather illogical tree cutting. Because like I said, they're cutting trees that aren't even affecting the wires when they come through. So I was just wondering if that's something that the neighborhoods as a whole would like to work on, or you're feeling like it's an issue in your neighborhood or anything like that.
And I see Violetta has her hand up. Violetta, go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to add, Danielle, that this was a problem up in Helderberg as well. I mean, it was to a point that actually the city had to, whatever the contractor that National Grid had used, there was so much complaints, the city had to put a stop to it. Now, this was going back a number of years, but it absolutely, you're right. I mean, they're indiscriminate. They butcher trees in a way that we lose them. So I think it would be great. And if we can work together, I think I just want to reiterate what Arlene Way said, which was, the rising tide, when we all work together, we can make things happen. We saw that also with the post office. We had so many neighborhood associations working together collaboratively. So I think I agree with you in terms that I think working together is going to help us save our trees.
So Zach, if you can give me like a meeting where I could start working to get some representatives to, and I definitely think that if they hear you know, if it's just our neighborhood, they might be like, oh, that's just their neighborhood that has a problem. But if they're hearing it from across the city, then that's not an isolated problem. That's definitely an issue. So.
Right.
Yeah,
I was just
go
sorry.
ahead, Lloyd. Go ahead,
I
go
just
ahead.
was wondering if about the other associations here and their experience.
Laura.
Well, we actually, the Melrose Neighborhood Association was moribund until a whole bunch of trees were cut down on Melrose. And that's actually how we ended up initially coming together in Melrose, was to cope with the tree situation. And we ended up working with Jay Levine, and the city actually did replant a bunch of trees. I can't remember if there was National Grid. I can't remember who cut it down. It had to do with the repaving of the roads. But I do think that, so I guess my question is, I guess I don't know what the connection is between National Grid and Jay Levine, and whether those two paths cross, or what the points of interest would be. I guess, you know, I think there's a lot of unknowns in terms of how to work with this, but I'm wondering if you, I mean, is your concept like, do we want to like have a committee meeting to like work on this, or what was your concept in terms of a next step?
So I was just kind of thinking that we get a representative here and see who, like, you know, get DGS, speak to DGS, speak to National Grid, and see where that goes from there. Because I mean, frankly, they might say, oh, this is not acceptable and this is not what we sent them out to do. And that could potentially be the end of it. If they, you know, if they're brought into an entire like representation from the whole city, they may not even want to fight. So I think we can just, I would like to just go there, because if we can solve it that quickly, that's great. But obviously if there's pushback, then we would need to, you know, reorganize into a different way and come back stronger. But I'm hoping that, you know, given the trends towards everything and environmental consciousness, that National Grid just isn't going to want that.
Colin, you got your hand up? Just gotta unmute yourself. And you're on mute, Colin. There you go. There you go.
I just think this from a person's perspective, since I've been.
We can't really hear you.
Oh, your audio.
I've been dealing with this for 20 years. National Grid has pruned my tree back so far.
Hey, Colin, we're really having a hard time hearing you. Can you?
All right, forget it.
Oh, that was better. That was better. Sorry, Colin. Sorry about that. Okay. All right.
Well,
and I can talk with you offline, Colin, if you have some suggestions too.
John.
Unmute.
thank you. Yeah, I like the idea. If they have some sort of public information officer, invite him or her to CANA, and it might get solved right then. At least they would know that a whole bunch of people are wanting to talk to them about this.
Right.
That would be good. All right. Well, Danielle, we'll talk further. Sounds good.
Yep. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. All right. So just going to wrap up a few more things. Bylaw amendments. I know at the last meeting I spoke about the amendments to the bylaws. I sent them out to the listserv. Does anybody have any comments or discussion on the bylaws amendments? I did send out a memorandum that kind of made it pretty simple to review, so. Okay. Okay. We did do a website doodle poll for the new website. I did get pretty good feedback. Let's see. Oops. Hold on a second. Can everybody see the poll? The results, everybody can see it?
It's good. I see it.
Okay. We had about 17 individuals chime in. So it seems like the most important thing is the community calendar for upcoming meetings and events. And then like the second place was the continue to store the meeting minutes and agendas and emails on the new website, and current contact information page for each neighborhood association. And then third place, new map for the city, neighborhoods, community resource page, and then having like it as a central hub website for hosting other neighborhood associations. So so the next step will be to start entertaining potential developers, and then obviously get estimates, and then I'll consult with the executive committee, and then we'll hopefully pick somebody to move forward with that eventually. Any questions? Okay.
Well,
All right.
it might be, I'm sorry, Zach, it might be pretty expensive. You might want to look for somebody who's willing to work for a reduced price. So,
okay. Great.
There are no members that can do, I mean, WordPress is not a terribly difficult build. I unfortunately don't have time for it, but I mean, there might be some maybe younger members, some college students that might be willing to build it in WordPress. Just a suggestion that might save some money.
Arlene, you got your hand up?
You're muted.
Okay.
I can't. She's muted, right?
Yeah.
Arlene, we can't hear you.
Can you unmute?
I'm someone who's really good, who would be worth speaking to. He's a young guy. He has a shop on Delaware. He does amazing work. And I think he can give you everything that you're looking for. And I'll give you his information. He'd be worth interviewing.
Okay, great. Sounds great. Thanks, Arlene. Appreciate that. All right, so St. Patty's Day, that's coming up. CANA is going to be participating. I hope we get some walkers. It's not this Saturday, following Saturday, I believe. I did have a graphic to show where we're meeting up. Let me see here. Okay. So where is my spotlight? Okay. So we're going to be marching with the South End delegation, number 7. So we're going to be meeting right here between Partridge and Manning, near the post office and Albany Marble. And that's going to be 2 o'clock, not this Saturday, next Saturday. And lineup starts at 1:45. And then upcoming meetings, let's see. April, we have BJ Costello. He's going to be talking about the Albany waterfront collaboration. We're going to have the 5 new common council members coming. And then May, we have the Albany City School District, Albany Public Library. We have Jackie Gonzalez. She's with the City of Albany Sustainability Advisory Committee. And then in June, we've got Albany County Executive Dan McCoy. We also have Holly Planels McKenna. She is the new director of community engagement for the International Center of the Capital Region. And is there anything else folks want to bring up tonight?
Will Pat Fay and John McDonald be fit in there at some point, or is that still to be determined?
I talked to John McDonald. It'll, obviously, it'll be later in the schedule. If need be in September. So I know she's gonna need some time to be with her family, and that's what's important with Rick right now. So, but yeah, it'll be later this year sometime. Okay, anything else? All right.
Thanks, Zach. This was as always, just this absolutely amazing. CANA is just a gift to the city. Thank you so much for all you do.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate your time and attention as always. And we'll see you in a month, okay?
All right, thank you, Zach.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Have a good time.
Night, everybody.